The wind over the cratered farmland blew with a dry, listless sort of howl, stirring ash into lazy spirals between the broken stalks of half-vaporized corn. The smell of scorched cellulose and melted plastic hung in the air, thick enough to coat the tongue. Nothing moved, at least nothing that was supposed to. The SR recon craft touched down with a subtle hiss, its landing struts pressing into soil that had recently been superheated to glass and then cooled again by orbital drizzle. 3 soldiers stepped out, their armor dark and angular, matte-finished to avoid reflection. Their rifles stayed level, their scanners active. Confirming site designation, Human Colony 782R Agricultural Class, said Recon Officer T-Vex, tapping his wrist pad. Strike success logged. We are to verify elimination and tag residuals for reclamation. The others grunted affirmation. One of them crunched a boot down on what had once been a hover plow. It sparked pitifully and died. A silo loomed crookedly on the horizon, half melted, its upper segment slumped sideways like a drunk clinging to a lamppost. The remains of irrigation drones lay scattered around it, their rotors twisted like broken insect wings. No heat, no pulse. No emissions, came the report from the second recon specialist, eyes flicking across the spectral overlays in his helmet. This place is deader than Central Admin's Creativity Bureau. They walked in silence for several minutes, weaving their way through rows of burnt crops and the occasional smoldering piece of equipment. The occasional clump of carbon used to be something, maybe a storage shed, maybe a farmer. No one really asked. Then the third trooper, Rilk, paused. I've got something. T-Vex stopped. Repeat? Single life form ping. Stationary. No movement, but it's close. 70 meters dead ahead. A survivor? Doubt it. It's not hiding. Just standing there. The 3 formed a loose triangle and advanced slowly, boots kicking up fine black dust. As they rounded the remains of what might have once been a chicken coop, they saw it. A cow. A single white and brown spotted cow. Standing motionless in the middle of a blackened pasture. It was completely unharmed. Not burned, not bruised. Its large eyes stared directly at them with a serene, vacant, bovine indifference. The field around it was leveled, pockmarked with small craters, and dusted with the gray fallout of orbital bombardment. The cow just stood there, facing them, still. What the hell is that? Rilk whispered. It's a cow, T-Vex said flatly. I know it's a cow. I mean, why is it a cow? They stared for a long moment. The cow didn't blink. It's probably just a leftover. Wandering around, some human probably missed their evac window. It's not wandering. It's standing. And staring. I don't like it, muttered the second trooper. It's too clean. Everything else here is half melted or exploded. That thing looks like it walked out of a dairy commercial. Could be an auto livestock synth, T-Vex said. Those still ping partially organic. Sometimes they mix real tissue with composite frames. That's comforting. The cow took a single step forward. The troopers raised their rifles immediately. The cow stopped again. Why is it getting closer? Rilk asked. Maybe it's curious. Or maybe it's a bomb. The cow continued to do nothing. Scan it, T-Vex ordered. The second trooper pointed his wrist module at the cow. It chirped once. Partial organic material detected. Internal structure inconsistent with standard bovine anatomy. What does that mean? It means it's weird. The cow blinked once. Then Rilk did what generations of military doctrine had warned against. He poked the cow with the barrel of his rifle. There was a long, horrible second of silence. The cow let out a loud, distorted "Moo!" Then banjo music started playing from somewhere deep inside its chest. All 3 troopers froze. Why is it playing music? Asked Rilk. I don't know. Why is it getting louder? The volume cranked up like an ancient earth barn dance at max throttle, twangy, energetic, and increasingly aggressive. The cow made a mechanical whirring sound. Segments along its side began to hiss, then unfold. Plates snapped open like insect wings. The front of the torso yawned wide, revealing a dark hollow cavity. Gears shifted. Hydraulic arms extended. A plasma conduit began glowing faint blue near what used to be the rib cage. Oh no, T-Vex said. From inside the mechanical cow, a voice rang out in a strong southern Terran accent. "Y'all took your damn time." 4 armored human soldiers erupted from the cow's belly like a tactical clown car, weapons drawn, grinning behind polarized visors. And the banjo music got louder. The cow exploded. Not literally, not yet. But the moment the 4 humans burst out of its ribcage compartment, firing in every direction with the gleeful efficiency of lunatics who had practiced this specific maneuver far too many times, the impact was the same as a detonation. The banjo music transitioned with terrifying smoothness into Ring of Fire by an ancient Earth musician known as Johnny Cash, the twangy guitar practically vibrating through the dust-choked field as though sound itself had declared war. Plasma bolts scorched the dirt in wide arcs as the humans leapt from the mechanical bovine with terrifying coordination. One of them, a thick-armed brute with a tattoo of a chicken wielding a machine gun on his neck, pivoted immediately and dropped to a knee behind the cow's flank, yanking a concealed control bar that raised the torso like a turret mount. From the cavity where a digestive system should have been, a mortar system unfolded with ominous hissing. It began to glow. Tvek shouted, "Cover! Scatter! Scatter!" The SR troopers ran. It was unclear what they were running from. Gunfire, music, the horrifying realization that their enemy had been inside a cow, possibly all of the above. Flashbangs shot out from the cow's hooves with shrill, percussive pops that exploded like angry popcorn across the ruined field. One trooper dropped flat and rolled blindly into a crater. Another attempted to fire back, but ended up screaming, "Why does it smell like barbecue?" as a thermal grenade cooked a decades-old pile of fertilizer into something that could char a lung. The man at the plasma mortar smiled grimly. "This one's for Betsy," he said, and pressed the fire trigger. The mortar coughed once, like an old smoker, then launched a pulsing blue charge that sailed lazily into the sky, curved and slammed directly into the parked Eshar lander with a wet whoomp. The explosion that followed wasn't particularly large, but it was the kind that destroyed everything important: engines, navigation, escape protocols, and the pride of the engineers who built it. "Request immediate evac. The cow is a trap." "I repeat, the cow!" someone shouted into a comms unit, but the sentence was never finished. The comms fizzled into static as the antenna was atomized by a stray bolt, possibly on purpose. From the perimeter of the field, the other 3 humans fanned out, laying suppressive fire with the kind of casual, cheerful efficiency that suggested they really were just having fun. One paused long enough to flip a metal plate upright in the ground. It read, "Free samples," in crudely stenciled paint. Another jammed an earth flag into the smoking remains of a scarecrow. Tvek tried to rally. He stood behind a half-melted irrigation pipe and raised his weapon, only to watch it melt in his hands as a bolt from the cow turret clipped it with surgical precision. "Retreat!" he shouted, then changed his mind. "No evac?" "No, wait, hide. Just hide. Someone crawl into the silo!" Rilk, the first to poke the cow and therefore morally responsible for the entire disaster, tried to slink away through a trench made of what had once been cabbage. He made it 6 meters before he tripped over a booby-trapped garden gnome. It exploded in a modest but personally humiliating fireball. 10 minutes later, the shooting stopped. The humans stood amidst the smoldering debris, smoke curling from the tips of their weapons. The music faded. One of them gently removed a mini-speaker from the cow's chest cavity and turned it off. Another gave the still-smoking cowshell a loving pat. "We're calling that a success," said the mortar man. "I'm calling it poetry," said the woman with the mohawk, crouching to retrieve a spent ammo cartridge. "Also, I think we need to adjust the leg compartment. I bruised my thigh on a flashlight when we popped out." "What's the cow's kill count?" someone asked. 2 landers disabled, 7 scattered, 1 wet themselves, and 4 recorded as emotionally compromised. She grinned. "Not bad for Betsy's first field test." They tagged the few pieces of useful Eshar tech left behind, stuffed them into a camouflaged duffel bag, and vanished into the ruins. Before they left, they placed a weather-worn cowboy hat on top of the cow's head and painted jagged teeth across its mouthplate in red marker. A small laminated sign was pinned to its flank, "Moo and Boom, accept no substitutes." The last remaining Eshar trooper, one Private Ilrek, had spent the entire skirmish wedged beneath a broken tractor. He emerged only once the humans were long gone. His armor was covered in soot and straw. His helmet had a dent shaped like a hoofprint. He walked unsteadily back toward the half-cratered command beacon and sat down, staring at nothing in particular. When the recovery team found him 6 hours later, he refused to speak. The medic said he might be in shock. He only ever whispered one thing over and over. Mu means war. Eshar High Command's initial response to the debrief was to accuse the recon unit of falsifying records, drug abuse, and possibly mental breakdown. Then the drone footage arrived. Everything was there. High-res video from 2 Eshar drones still orbiting above the site. They watched the entire sequence. The cow, the music, the hatch opening, the plasma mortar, and the humans waving to the sky with big, exaggerated grins as they left. It was submitted to Fleet Archives as evidence. The event was reluctantly logged under the name Operation Bessie's Revenge. An internal memo was circulated warning that, quote, human agricultural zones may require reassessment as potential ambush vectors. Livestock should not be approached unless verified organic, non-mechanized, and unarmed. The phrase, "the cow was a decoy, sir," took on a life of its own. At first it was said in hushed tones during tactical reviews. Then it became a nervous joke among field officers. Within weeks it was printed on posters in Eshar training academies as a reminder to always scan the obvious. Fleet slang absorbed it entirely. A decoy cow meant anything suspiciously mundane that was clearly a trap. An Operation Mu referred to baiting an enemy with something idiotic and making it work. Drill instructors began to shout, "What do we check for before approaching?" And the class would respond in unison, "Cows!" Meanwhile, back in the human colonies, unofficial T-shirts were printed with the outline of the now famous mechanical bovine. Some glowed in the dark. A toy company licensed the design and released plush versions with tiny sound chips that played banjo music when squeezed. By the end of the cycle, one thing was clear across the sector. The Eshar no longer approached farm animals without backup.